Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yoshai, Bahashem Harakah Kudash. Double honors unto the elder apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well. And shalom to the hopeful elect. This is Paya Allah, and this is Ruth, the fourth chapter, which reads, Then went Boaz up to the gate, and sat him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city, and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, now what he did is he initiated a council. All right, as we know in the ancient times, all right, when we go back to our history, the gates was basically a key place within a city, an integral part of a city. It stood as the entrance and the exit of the city, so it presented commerce for the most part in a fashion, whether it be of resources, goods, information, and counsel. All right, you'd have the watchers on the gates. They'll basically watch for whoever is coming into the gate. You'd also have the and that point being at the watchers side of the gate, you'd have the integral members, so that the heads, the judges of the city sit by the gates, because they would have to have that information passed on to them firsthand. All right, because they're going to be the ones that are going to instruct the city accordingly. If there was a threat from outside or anything that was happening, they would need to be first to know, because their counsel would be sort of in terms of dealing with the matter accordingly. Then you had all forms of trade and commerce, people being allowed entry into the city and whatnot, judgment. It was a very big place. Now this is why Boaz, all right, basically initiated this business at the gate, because again the elders of the city sat by the gate, all right, and as you can see by chance, he came across his near kin, who he was waiting for, his kinsman, to initiate the business, showing you how much of a center part, the main part of the city that was. Okay, verse 3. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land which was our brother Elimelech's. Elimelech's. All right. Now, basically, this is going in accordance to the law written in the book of Numbers, the 27th chapter, whereby, if you had the daughters of, um, I forget his name, it begins with a Z. Like, I can see it in my mind, but I can't put it. It's like Zelipode or something like that. But basically, he had 7 daughters, or quite a few daughters, 5 or 7 daughters. And what happened is they went on to Moses and basically held counsel and said, like, look, we don't have an inheritance among Israel. And our father, he didn't follow after Korah, but he died of his own sins, and now we're left. But he should have a portion of land to carry on his name. And when Moses inquired of the Lord, he basically said they spoke rightly. And then he put forth a law whereby it was a fashion in which you'd appoint that land, and it'll go first through the neck, the the kinsman of the father, no, the kinsman of that house, basically. Then the kinsman of that father. You can read it in Numbers 27, so like the first verse on down. But basically, there's a procedure, and this is what Boaz is following after. All right. Verse 4. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Right. Reading on, it says, verse 5. Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, must buy it also of Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Right. So basically, what's happened now is, he's let him know. He said he took up the offer, but then when he found out the other issues that was tied toward that offer was that he'd have to raise up a seed after uh, the former husband, all right, to the wife, the widow that was part of the house, basically the land, and he said he couldn't afford to do it, all right, which shows, you know, on one side you could say it shows responsibility, like he's aware of his limits and whatnot, but on the other side it shows a lack of faith as well, all right, because I mean it's part of your inheritance. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs to look at it, but those are the 2 points that come to mind. Because hey, if the Lord appointed you that land, you just gotta get your hustle on, all right. But obviously he would have, all right. He would have seen it as a chance to get rich. But then the idea of him having to raise up a child was like rear up a child was the thing, the deal breaker, all right, which really serves to his detriment, all right, on a great level, which we'll read into. Verse 7, all right, but it's all in the spirit regardless anyway, all right. But that's also, these things are happening in line with who? When you deal with Judah, you deal with, I forget his name, is it Onan? I forget the name of the son of Judah that was meant to raise up seed after and spilt his seed on the floor. Basically, the woman Tamar needed someone to raise up seed to continue the line. All right. So those are, those two main facets of our law, statutes, and commandments, our culture, that are being applied in this amongst many others. There's a few others as well, but two of the main ones being applied in this history, the story. So it says, now this was the manner in the former time of Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, all right, handing something over. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And this was a testimony in Israel. Now, Lord willing, I'm going to do a video upon this because it's just, a light bulb went off as soon as I read this and read into it. Oh, this is Jacob and Esau. All right, this has become something somewhat of culture. I don't know whether it was something that was around before or something that stemmed from that. All right, but hey, you can see that the transfer, not an atonement, an agreement being met was done by the changing of, a man giving his sandal or his shoe over to the man that took up the offer. Verse 8, therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day. Right, so it shows you these things were, the gate of the city is where, executions was established, judgments was handed out. It was a place of spectacle, all right, where the markets were, everything, all right. So you had an abundance of witnesses aside from the 10 that had been pulled up by Boaz, that I have brought all that was Elimelech's, El Eli Elimelech's, Elimelech, Elimelech's, and all that was Chilon's and Marlon's, and the hand of Naomi. All right, so he took in the abundance of wealth. All right, in that this was a landmass that was appointed to the father, and that was going to be part parted. That inheritance would be parted between his two sons and their families. So basically, technically, this is like, you know, uh, some a great a mass, amount of land. all right, of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. Right? Two and the witnesses, two or three called into the law. Verse 11, and all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord Yahweh make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, and which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephah, Ephratah, Ephratah, and be famous in Bayaflacom, or at the house of bread. And let thy house be like the house of Perez, who Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord Yahweh shall give thee of this young woman. Right, so that's into, akin to the blessing, of the seed being raised, Judah giving seed to Tamar that bore her two twins. All right, after she did right in that, when the younger brother of the youngest son of Judah grew, he Judah forgot to pass her on to Tamar to raise up seed for his to honor that marriage and raise up seed unto his former son. All right, so she took it into her own hands in playing a harlot. Now, this effectively is a blessing, all right, which shows you that the kinsman who his name wasn't is forgot in the history books, all right, he didn't walk in faith, all right, and his uh lack of faith, all right, showed that in such as an error because the elders and the people blessed, they bore witness of the testimony and they put a blessing upon him. All right, which as we're going to read into, it speaks to that great blessing that was placed upon him. Because we're even talking about those that come, we'll read into it, but those that came from the lineage of Judah, all right, those that come after Boaz, speaks to a great lineage. All right, verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord Yahweh gave her conception. All right, conception is to me, which means to hold seed. The Heavenly Father gave her copulation, allowed her to hold the seed and become pregnant to the point where the gender as well was that of a son. All right, in order to execute this blessing, and she bare a son. Verse 14. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord Yahweh, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. Right, and this is quite deep because when you're dealing with Ruth is a Moabite. All right, and this really shows you that this all happened for the sake of Israel. All right, that there was a faithful Moabitess, all right, a heathen that served as a purpose, a beneficiary in this story. But the main thing was for Israel because everything, the whole world was made for our sakes. All right, and this is made for the purpose of establishing the seed of Israel. So that's something to take to note. All right, you so-called black women, right? Israelite women, Hispanic, so-called Hispanic women, so-called Latin women, Latina women. All right, this shows you that what the Heavenly Father don't need the women; He just needs the seed of Israel. All right, and He could take a faithful heathen woman and present her in a situation like this to bring about a seed that will be made famous and gracious upon the children of Israel. Verse 15. And He said, Be unto thee a restorer of thy life and a nourisher of thine old age, for thy daughter in law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than seven sons. Funnily enough, which there goes on to be seven sons in this story. All right, but it shows you that, the magnitude of this woman, all right, within this story, have borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom and became nurse unto it. And the women her neighbors gave it a name. Now this is heavy. It is really deep. All right. Saying there is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse and the father of David. Now the name Obed goes back to the Hebrew I bud. All right, bud. Uh, I believe it's I bud. Yeah, which means servant. All right, it's the war, the um affix of war makes it, you know, I forget the grammatical term, but it makes it into servant. It goes from I bud, which means servant, to I will bud, which means serving. All right, it's like a doing, a present word, doing. Anyway, this is the reason why I'm going into this as a point, and maybe I'll do a video to extra to this if the Lord will. But when you go into the book of when you deal with a kinsman redeemer, all right, aside from what I mentioned is Numbers 27. When you go into the book of Leviticus 25, it speaks about a kinsman redeemer, how you have a near kin unto you fall on hard times. And funnily enough, it speaks about, and this is why this is cold, because it speaks about if you in your house have someone a sojourner, or someone a sojourner, or there's another word for it, a servant or a sojourner, I believe, that gets rich within your house, and then now one of your near kin falls on hard times and sells himself into slavery or servitude underneath that that heathen, basically there's different rules and regulations to redeem. All right, but within this story, that's basically what happened. It's funny because it's like this woman Ruth became rich. All right, she became an inheritor. Along with Naomi, but Naomi being of of a greater age, all right, than Ruth. All right, Naomi would have been younger than a lot, significantly younger than her husband, but then somewhat older than her, her children, maybe like full, anywhere from 12, 13 to like 16, 17, 18 years old, older than her children, all right, surviving them. But then at the same time, Ruth would have been adequately younger than her at the same time. So Naomi stands to pass on at some point. But then the one that's really going to enjoy the fruits of that labor, of that wealth, would be who? Ruth. Naomi didn't get to enjoy it. They had to go into sojourn in the land of Moab due to famine. But Ruth now has gained riches, being underneath, gaining riches through, her marrying into the family. All right. And funnily enough, old Boaz, has gained great wealth, but then Obed stands to gain substantial wealth as well, being the beneficiary of both, the land masses of um of Boaz and the line of Naomi and that family. But the reason why I'm saying this is because when you read Leviticus 25, where it ends up speaking to, it speaks about the redemption of the children of Israel being sold into slavery. The Lord basically, concludes it in saying that the children of Israel are to serve the Heavenly Father. All right, they're the servants of Israel, the servants of the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yoshai, Ba'ashem, Arakar, Kodash. All right, which shows you that this redemption in that the name Obed or I will bud servant, all right, is basically the conclusion of that inheritance being brought back onto the Heavenly Father, and then only comes into effect through the servant King David, all right, who is a man after the Most High's heart, the beloved of the Heavenly Father, and only would serve in the greatest way, being the King, King David. All right, so I'll probably, if the Lord will, man, Lord will, I'll do a video on that. I'll just have to formulate it in a very in an edifying manner. all right, and make it to the point as much as possible. But it's kind of deep when you look at this story. But let's close out with this. This is verse 18. It says, "Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Hezron, and Hezron begat Ram, and Ram begat Aminadab, and Aminadab begat Nashon." Now, when you read it, these are integral individuals. Like Nashon, he married Rahab the harlot, and he was one of the heads over the children of Israel. And Nashon begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. All right, who was one of 7 sons. All right. So with that, I pray you edified to the next one. Shalom.